English Daily, the podcast.
Your English journey starts now. Hello and welcome to English Daily Podcast. I'm Anna, and I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Hey everyone, I'm Jack, and yes, Anna is absolutely right. We have something really special planned for you today, something that we've been working on for quite a while.
That's right, Jack. Today we're going to dive deep into a topic that many of our listeners have been asking about. We're talking about phrases, specifically 136 essential phrases that will take your English from good to absolutely outstanding.
And I want to be clear with our audience right from the start. These aren't the kind of phrases you're going to find in your average textbook. We're talking about the expressions, the collocations, the discourse markers, and the nuanced language that native speakers use naturally, but that textbooks often miss completely.
Exactly. You know, Jack, I remember when I was studying for my C2 proficiency exam years ago, I had a solid grammar foundation, I knew my vocabulary, but something was still missing. It wasn't until I started paying attention to how native speakers actually connected their ideas that everything clicked.
Oh, absolutely. I've been there too. In fact, one of my clearest memories from my language learning journey was having a conversation with a British colleague and thinking, wait, I understood every individual word, but I have no idea what he just said as a whole. That's when I realized it wasn't about knowing more words, it was about knowing how those words work together in real, authentic expressions.
And that's precisely why we created this episode. We want to give you that competitive edge, that native-like fluency that will make you stand out in academic papers, professional meetings, or simply when you're chatting with native speakers.
All right, let's get started. And remember, mastering the expressions that textbooks miss, that's our goal for today. Okay, Anna, let's start with our first subtopic, which is all about discourse markers and connectors. These are the phrases that help you transition between ideas smoothly, and they're absolutely crucial for both speaking and writing at an advanced level.
Absolutely, Jack. And I want to emphasize something here. These aren't just filler words or empty transitions. They actually carry meaning, and they show your listener or reader the logical relationship between your ideas. For example, when you say moreover, you're not just moving to a new point, you're signaling that you're adding information that supports what you just said.
Right, and that's a common mistake I see even among advanced learners. They'll use moreover when they actually mean to contrast something, which creates confusion. So let's start with some really useful ones. How about we begin with not to mention and let alone? These are great for emphasizing a point.
Oh, I love those. So, not to mention is used to add something impressive or significant to what you've already said. Like, the project was a huge success, not to mention the positive impact it had on team morale. See? You're adding extra weight to your argument.
Exactly. And let alone is similar, but it's used when you're talking about something even more extreme. Like, I can barely afford my rent, let alone think about buying a house. It's like saying, if I can barely do this easy thing, there's no way I can do this harder thing.
And then we have in light of, which is perfect for academic writing. It's used to show that something is being considered because of particular circumstances. For instance, in light of recent research findings, we need to revise our approach. Very formal, very academic.
Yes, and another one that I use all the time is with that in mind. It signals that you're about to draw a conclusion or make a point based on what was just discussed. The data shows positive trends, and with that in mind, we can propose 3 possible solutions.
Let's also talk about as things stand. This is fantastic for presenting the current situation before making a proposal. As things stand, the infrastructure cannot support the proposed changes. Very neutral, very professional.
You know, Anna, I think another important one is it goes without saying, though you have to be careful with this one because it's quite strong. You're basically saying something is so obvious it doesn't need explanation. It goes without saying that student satisfaction is our top priority.
True, but use it sparingly because if you use it too often, it can come across as a bit pretentious. Now, what about by the same token? That's another good connector.
Oh, yes. By the same token means similarly or in the same way. It's used to show that two things are comparable. The company invested heavily in R&D, and by the same token, they prioritized employee training. See? You're drawing a parallel.
And this leads us perfectly to on the flip side, which is the more informal cousin of however or conversely. It's great for spoken English. The new policy reduces costs, but on the flip side, it might decrease product quality.
I think one more we should mention is all things considered. This is perfect for conclusions because it signals that you're taking everything into account. All things considered, the project was a success despite the initial setbacks.
These discourse markers are really the glue that hold your arguments together, Jack. And the key is to use them naturally, not to overuse them, but to use them strategically to guide your listener through your thought process.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to our next category, which I think is equally important.
Okay, so we've talked about how to connect ideas. Now let's discuss how to express opinions. And this is where hedging comes in. Hedging is basically when you soften your language to make your statements less absolute. And it's incredibly important at the C1, C2 level because it shows nuance and academic sophistication.
This is huge, Anna. In English, especially in academic and professional contexts, you rarely want to be too direct. It's not about being wishy-washy, it's about being appropriately cautious and acknowledging that there's always room for other perspectives.
Let's start with some classic hedging phrases. It could be argued that is one of the most common ones in academic writing. It could be argued that social media has a negative impact on mental health. You're presenting an argument without claiming it's the absolute truth.
Right, and then there's one could say that, which is very similar, or there's a case to be made that. These all serve the same purpose of softening your claim while still making it.
Another really useful one is the evidence suggests, as opposed to the evidence proves. Suggests is much weaker than proves. And that's exactly what you want when you're dealing with complex issues where the data isn't 100% conclusive.
And let's not forget about tend to. This is such a simple word but so powerful. Instead of saying people prefer coffee in the morning, you say people tend to prefer coffee in the morning. That tiny addition makes your statement much more nuanced.
I also love at first glance or on the surface. These are great for acknowledging that your initial assessment might not tell the whole story. The proposal looks good at first glance, but there are some serious issues we need to consider.
And for when you want to express a personal opinion while still acknowledging other views, you can use from my perspective or in my view or as I see it. These are all acceptable in formal contexts, but they clearly mark that this is your personal take.
Now here's an advanced one. I would contend that. This is stronger than I think, but still not overly assertive. I would contend that this approach is more sustainable in the long run.
You know what I really appreciate in academic writing? It remains to be seen. This is perfect when you're discussing something uncertain. Whether the new strategy will work remains to be seen. It acknowledges that time will tell without making a premature judgment.
Another fantastic hedging phrase is subject to, but in the sense of prone to or dependent on. Like, these findings are subject to further research. It implies that things might change as more information becomes available.
And let's talk about in the main. This is a bit formal but very useful. It means generally or mostly. In the main, the results supported our hypothesis. Sounds very academic, doesn't it?
It does, and this naturally leads to by and large, which is similar but slightly more casual. These are great for summarizing general trends without overgeneralizing.
I think the key with hedging is balance, Anna. Too little hedging and you sound arrogant or careless. Too much and you sound uncertain or evasive. The goal is to sound like someone who knows what they're talking about but also respects the complexity of issues.
Exactly, Jack. And that brings us to our next category, which is all about expressing certainty and probability, which is actually the opposite side of hedging in some ways.
So we've talked about how to soften your statements. Now let's look at the other side of the coin, how to express different degrees of certainty and probability. This is crucial because in both academic and professional English, you need to be precise about how confident you are in what you're saying.
Absolutely. Let's start with the strong certainty expressions. It stands to reason is one of my favorites. It means something is logical or obvious. It stands to reason that increased investment would lead to better outcomes.
And beyond the shadow of a doubt is for when you're absolutely certain about something, though you have to be careful because it's quite strong, usually used in more dramatic or legal contexts. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, this is the right decision.
For medium certainty, we have more likely than not. This is great for expressing probabilistic statements without going all the way. More likely than not, the project will be completed on time.
And then there's the odds are, which is similar. The odds are in our favor, or the odds are against us. Very natural in spoken English.
For speculation, one might suppose, or one could assume, are very academic ways of speculating. One might suppose that the increase in remote work has contributed to these housing trends.
And it remains unclear is essential for acknowledging uncertainty. It remains unclear exactly how the mechanism works, but current data suggests several possibilities.
Another good one is, there's every indication that. This suggests strong evidence pointing in a particular direction. There's every indication that the market will continue to grow.
And let's not forget to all intents and purposes, this is a bit old-fashioned, but it means essentially, or for all practical purposes. To all intents and purposes, the deal is done.
For expressing something that could go either way, the jury is still out is perfect. The jury is still out on whether this technology will prove beneficial in the long term.
You know, Anna, I think a safe bet is another useful expression. It's a safe bet that interest rates will rise next quarter. Means you're confident but not 100% certain.
And this leads us to given the evidence or in view of the evidence. These are great for academic writing because they show you're basing your conclusions on something concrete.
Probability expressions are so important because they help you sound precise. Instead of just saying, I think it's going to happen, you can choose exactly how confident you want to sound, and that precision is what distinguishes advanced English from intermediate English.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to some expressions that are more about conversation and discourse.
Now let's talk about discourse markers that are more common in spoken English. These are the phrases that make conversation flow naturally, and they're absolutely essential if you want to sound like a native speaker in everyday conversations.
Yes, and I want to make an important point here. These aren't just filler words. They serve real functions in conversation. They signal that you're following along, that you're about to add something, or that you're changing direction.
Let's start with some really common ones. Mind you is used to add a contrasting or qualifying point. I love the city, mind you, but it can be exhausting sometimes. See? You're adding a nuance to what you just said.
And that said is similar, but it's more about acknowledging a point before counteracting it. That said, there are still many challenges to overcome.
Another super useful one is the thing is. This is used to introduce an important point or problem. The thing is, we need to decide this by Friday.
And as I was saying, is perfect for when you've been interrupted and want to get back to your point. Sorry, as I was saying, the results were very promising.
Let's talk about go on.
This is used to encourage someone to continue. You were saying? Go on. Or it can mean continue doing something. Go on, try it.
Another one I use all the time is "it turns out." This is for when something is discovered or happens unexpectedly. It turns out that the solution was much simpler than we thought. And "as it happens" is similar, but slightly more formal. As it happens, I was just thinking about that same issue.
For agreeing, we have exactly or precisely. But also, I hear you, which is more casual and shows your understanding and empathizing. I hear you. That sounds really frustrating.
And for partially agreeing, "I see where you're coming from" is great. It means you understand their perspective, even if you don't completely agree.
Now, let's look at some of the more emotional discourse markers. To be honest, or to tell you the truth, are used to introduce something that might be a bit controversial or personal. To be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the movie.
And "between you and me" signals that you're sharing something confidential. Between you and me, I think he's planning to leave the company.
And to be fair is used to acknowledge another perspective or to present a balanced view. To be fair, she did warn us about the potential problems.
And "funnily enough" or "strangely enough" are great for introducing something unexpected. Funnily enough, I ran into her at the grocery store yesterday.
These spoken discourse markers are what make your English sound natural and fluid. Without them, you can sound a bit robotic, even if your grammar is perfect.
Absolutely. And now let's move on to some expressions that are more specific to certain contexts, like business and professional settings.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about some expressions that you're particularly likely to encounter in professional and business contexts. These are phrases that will make you sound like a competent, confident professional in meetings, presentations, and emails.
Yes, and I want to stress that these aren't just buzzwords. They're practical tools for communicating effectively in workplace settings. Let's start with some meeting expressions.
Let's touch base is super common in business English. It means let's briefly discuss or check in. Let's touch base next week to review progress.
And "moving forward" is used to talk about future plans or direction. Moving forward, we need to focus on customer retention. Very standard in corporate settings.
Get the ball rolling means to start something. Let's get the ball rolling on this project tomorrow.
And "take it offline" is used when a discussion needs to happen privately or outside the current meeting. This is getting too detailed. Let's take it offline.
For presentations, I'd like to draw your attention to is very formal but useful. I'd like to draw your attention to the third quarter figures.
And "going forward" is similar to "moving forward," but slightly different. It emphasizes the future direction. Going forward, our strategy will focus on emerging markets.
The bottom line is used to get to the most important point. The bottom line is that we need to increase revenue by 20%.
And "at the end of the day" is used for summarizing or making a final point. At the end of the day, customer satisfaction is what matters most.
For discussing problems, we need to get ahead of this, means to address something before it becomes a bigger issue. The negative press is getting worse. We need to get ahead of this.
And "on the same page" means everyone understands and agrees. Before we proceed, let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Circle back means to return to a topic later. Let's circle back to this issue after we've reviewed the data.
And "reach out" means to contact someone. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Bandwidth in a business context means capacity or availability. I don't have the bandwidth to take on another project right now.
And "take ownership" means to take responsibility. I want you to take ownership of this project from start to finish.
These business expressions are absolutely essential if you're working in English-speaking environments or dealing with international clients. They help you sound professional and competent.
Absolutely. And now let's move to our final subtopic, which is all about idiomatic expressions and colloquial phrases that will help you sound more natural in everyday conversations.
All right, let's wrap up our main conversation with some idiomatic expressions and colloquial phrases. These are the expressions that give your English that native speaker flavor. And while they might seem tricky, they're absolutely worth learning.
Yes, and I want to say something important here. Don't be intimidated by idioms. Yes, they can seem random, but they follow their own logic once you understand them. Let's start with some really common ones.
Hit the nail on the head means to be exactly right about something. You hit the nail on the head with that observation.
And beat around the bush means to avoid getting to the point. Stop beating around the bush and tell me what happened.
Bite the bullet means to make a difficult decision. I finally bit the bullet and enrolled in the course.
Break the ice means to make people feel more comfortable in a social situation. He told a joke to break the ice.
Burning the midnight oil means to work late into the night. She was burning the midnight oil to finish the project.
And cost an arm and a leg means to be very expensive. That car costs an arm and a leg.
Cut to the chase means to get to the point without wasting time. We don't have much time, so let's cut to the chase.
And get out of hand means to become uncontrollable. The party got out of hand when more people showed up.
Give someone the benefit of the doubt means to believe something good about someone when you're not sure. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt this time.
And go the extra mile means to make extra effort. She's always willing to go the extra mile for her clients.
Hang in there means to stay positive and keep trying during difficult times. I know it's tough, but hang in there.
And have second thoughts means to start doubting a decision. I'm having second thoughts about accepting the job offer.
Hit the sack means to go to bed. It's been a long day. I'm going to hit the sack.
And kill two birds with one stone means to achieve two things with a single action. By working from home, I killed two birds with one stone, saving commute time and seeing my family more.
Let the cat out of the bag means to reveal a secret accidentally. Who let the cat out of the bag about the surprise party?
And make ends meet means to have just enough money to survive. It's hard to make ends meet on my salary.
On the ball means to be alert and competent. She's really on the ball with these financial matters.
And once in a blue moon means very rarely. He calls his mother once in a blue moon.
These idioms are the spice of English. They make your language more colorful, more engaging, and more native-like. Don't be afraid to use them, but make sure you understand them correctly first.
Absolutely, Jack. And now let's move on to our vocabulary breakdown, where we'll highlight some of the key phrases from today's discussion.
Okay, now it's time for our vocabulary breakdown. This is where we're going to highlight 15 to 20 key phrases that we think are absolutely essential for your advanced English toolkit. Anna, do you want to start?
Sure. Let's start with some of our favorites from the discourse markers category. Number 1, not to mention, used to add an impressive or significant point to support your argument.
Number 2, in light of, used to show that something is being considered because of particular circumstances or new information.
Number 3, all things considered, used to introduce a conclusion that takes everything into account.
Number 4, by the same token, used to show that two things are similar or can be compared.
Number 5, on the flip side, used to introduce a contrasting point in a more casual, conversational way.
Now let's move to hedging expressions. Number 6, it could be argued that, used to present an argument without claiming absolute truth.
Number 7, the evidence suggests, used to present findings without overstating certainty.
Number 8, it remains to be seen, used to acknowledge uncertainty about future outcomes.
Number 9, more likely than not, used to express probabilistic statements with moderate confidence.
Now let's look at some spoken discourse markers. Number 10, mind you, used to add a qualifying or contrasting point.
Number 11, the thing is, used to introduce an important point or problem.
Number 12, to be honest or to tell you the truth, used to introduce something personal or potentially controversial.
Number 13, it turns out, used when something is discovered or happens unexpectedly.
Let's add some business expressions. Number 14, let's touch base, used to suggest a brief check-in or discussion.
Number 15, get the ball rolling, used to mean start something.
Number 16, take it offline, used to suggest moving a discussion to a private or more appropriate setting.
Number 17, reach out, used to mean contact someone.
And finally, let's include some idiomatic expressions. Number 18, hit the nail on the head, to be exactly right.
Number 19, beat around the bush, to avoid getting to the point.
Number 20, kill two birds with one stone, to achieve two things with a single action.
These 20 phrases are just the tip of the iceberg, but they're an excellent starting point. Practice using them in your daily conversations and writing, and you'll notice a significant improvement in your English fluency.
Absolutely. And remember, the key is not just to memorize these phrases, but to understand when and how to use them naturally. That's what'll take your English to the C1, C2 level.
Now it's time for our reflection questions. We want you to think about what we've covered today and consider how you can apply these phrases in your own English use. Jack, do you want to start with the first question?
Sure. Question number 1. Think about your last conversation in English. Did you use any discourse markers or connectors? If not, which ones from today's episode could you have used to make your points more clearly?
Question number 2. When you need to express an opinion in English, how often do you hedge? Are you too direct, or do you perhaps hedge too much? What phrases from today's episode could help you find a better balance?
Question number 3. Consider a recent decision or conclusion you made in English. Could you have used probability expressions like more likely than not or the odds are to sound more nuanced and precise?
Question number 4. In your professional or academic English, which business expressions do you already use? Are there any new ones from today's episode that you think would make you sound more competent and professional?
Question number 5. Think about a time when you used an idiom incorrectly or didn't understand one. How do you plan to practice the idiomatic expressions we covered today to avoid similar situations?
Question number 6. When you're in a conversation in English, do you often use spoken discourse markers like the thing is or mind you? If not, what's holding you back? How can you incorporate more of these into your natural speech?
Question number 7. Consider a writing assignment or work email you need to complete soon. Which phrases from today's episode could help you express your ideas more effectively and professionally?
Question number 8. How often do you expose yourself to native English content like podcasts, movies, or books? Can you make a conscious effort to notice and note down new phrases and expressions you encounter?
Question number 9. Think about the difference between knowing a phrase and being able to use it naturally. What steps can you take to move from passive knowledge to active use in your speaking and writing?
Question number 10. Finally, which 3 phrases from today's episode are you most excited to start using? Why do you think they'll be most useful for your specific English goals?
These questions are designed to help you reflect on your learning and identify concrete steps you can take to improve. Don't just listen to this episode, make it a part of your English practice.
And remember, learning a language is a journey, not a destination. Every phrase you learn and use brings you one step closer to that native-like fluency you're working toward.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. We've covered a lot of ground, from discourse markers and hedging expressions to business English and idiomatic phrases. I hope you found this valuable.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you for joining us today. Learning these advanced expressions takes time and practice, but with dedication, you'll get there.
Remember, the key is to use these phrases in context. Don't just memorize them. Understand when and how they fit naturally into conversations and writing.
And please, don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Share this episode with fellow English learners who might benefit from it. Together, we can all improve.
That's all for today, everyone. I'm Jack.
And I'm Anna.
Thanks for listening to English Daily Podcast.
We'll see you next time. Keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep speaking English every day.
Bye for now.
Your learning journey doesn't stop here. Keep improving your English. Click the next video or explore more episodes we've picked just for you. See you in the next lesson.